I am Annette's sister-in-law, so I'm Jack's daughter-in-law, and John is my husband. And I learned how to weave from Auntie Lillian in 1990. I moved to Metlakatla with my husband for the summer, and I had a new baby and didn't know anybody. And Auntie Lillian was 2 houses down and became like my best friend. She was always a very generous teacher with lots of people around here, and these were her patterns. She had a couple spots that she liked to go when she was still able, and she would, traipse out there with us in the woods. And she said that usually end of May, June was usually the best. She'd say it's no good if you wait till July. So she would take her little hatchet, and she would start at the bottom of the tree and take a little notch and then make it so that you can, find it. Sometimes she'd make us go out ahead of time and test it to see if we felt like it was ready to go or not. And so then we would go out and we would collect it, and after you collected bark, you would have to process as much as you possibly could until you couldn't, sit anymore. Like, she would make you sit out there the whole day and take all the outer bark off, and then she would divide that bark into 2 pieces. Okay. She would take the outer bark off of all of it, and you would leave that out in the woods or wherever you were. And then we would come home and we would split it, but you would leave a notch at the top, and she would hang it overnight or for a little while. And she would let it sit until it was pretty, I don't want to say completely dry, but it was aired or more dried out. Like, she would kind of, season it, or she would.
Wasn't in direct sunlight.
No, inside, yeah. In fact, we would hang up like a drying rack kind of in the middle of the living room for a couple days, and we would hang, so you'd have the notch at the top so you wouldn't pull it all the way apart, and then you would take it and throw it over the rafter or whatever you had, and you would let it just kind of hang there for a couple days. And she was always better at knowing when it was done, but she would just keep looking at it, and it's not dried out enough, it's not dried out enough. And then when she felt like it was ready, then she would go ahead and pull it apart so that you had the part that was closest to the bark, which was a little bit better for the leadies, and then the part that was closer to the inside of the tree that was better for the hooves. So then you would kind of pull those apart, and then she would wrap them. And then when you grabbed a bundle to use for your project, you pretty much knew, from looking at it, if it was outer or inner bark.
Do you remember what size trees she would collect from?
Yeah, she never anything too big, and never anything too small. So in general, she wanted trees that were, somewhere around that big around. I'm kind of trying to remember what she would just that one's too big, that one's too small. She would kind of look until she found one that she thought was just right. And then she would always check to make sure that 2 things, that there wasn't too many knots in it, trying to make sure that it was an area where you could pull without running into too many knots. And then she would also look to see if it was starting to turn, so that when the tree was going up, you didn't end up with bark that was twisting around the tree. So she would try to see if she thought it was gonna, and sometimes when you started to pull, you realized it was gonna do that anyway, but that was kind of her criteria. It's like this medium-sized tree, and you had to make sure that it was as little knots as possible, and you wanted one that was going to be as straight of grain as you could.
What kind of materials did she use for her false embroidery?
The dark was always maidenhair fern, and then the white was, she called it bear grass. She would say, the one out by the road. That's what she would say. And then, the maidenhair fern, she'd always pick in May and June when it was really long and nice and soft, and preserve it for the year. She would pull that little center, what's that little pith out? Yeah, and she'd pull the pith out, and she would just sit there and clean all the piths out of it. And once all the piths were removed, she let them sit and dry.
And when she rehydrated it to weave, did you have to do it in the morning or the night before, soak it before you?
And she always wanted to start with warm water. I don't know, but that was her thing.
Warm water and soften it up, and then it was either a day beforehand or that morning?
Yes.
Could it be a couple days, or was it,
She would keep a lot of things in water, a lot. I don't know, she just always seemed to have buckets of water around with different things in it, you know?
Going.
Yeah, different things going. Like she would have her, when she you know, she would start her basket and get it going, and like maybe a day or two before she knew she was getting ready for a design, she would put the maidenhair fern in the water. But the grass, when she was working with that, doesn't take much, like it didn't take much to soften. So that didn't seem to be soaking all the time. That seemed to be more like, I can throw it and just maybe wet it a little bit and get it softened up a little bit, and it's ready to use. It didn't have to soak.
So when she started a basket, she had all her material ready for that?
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. She had everything planned out, and she had all of her leadies, and she knew how long, and she had all of her who's all ready to go, and
Okay.
yep, everything all set up.
Did she ever put it on a form while it's drying, or did
Yes.
she? Okay.
Yep, if it was drying, and especially a bigger one, like you can see that spray
Yeah.
bottle, I'm not sure, but yes, she would stick something in there overnight when she wasn't working on it,
Uh-huh.
and then as soon as she was working on it, she'd pull it out. And,
Yeah.
yep,
Okay.
and sometimes wrap it in a towel a little bit,
Yeah.
like you said, yeah.
Uh-huh.